Okay, so the CPU cooler is off. CPUs have been switched out. Now I've got the old Pentium D 820, I think it is, the 2.8 gig one, which again, like I said, will be fast enough for the really old games I intend on using with this older platform here. Um, and here's the E6700, 7600 rather. So I got this for this motherboard, but this motherboard only supports up to the 6700, not the 7600. It was just a, I guess I read it incorrectly or something. I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. It was a $5 chip, so whatever. But I had this one. It's in there now. I'm going to be installing this cooler on there. I mean, there's no overclocking on this motherboard or whatever, so this is going to be more than sufficient, and definitely better than the stock cooler that was on this motherboard. You can see that stock cooler on the other video, on the other earlier portions of this series here. So yeah, I'm about to install this and then finish up all the wiring and get it all going, and that'll be that. I did get myself a PCIe 3.0 for USBs for the front panel, because this motherboard doesn't have USB 3.0 for the front panel. I mean, it's pretty old. It actually has, you know, the IDEs on there. But does have an okay PCIe 2.0 X16, I believe it is. And even if it's an X8, it's still plenty. The graphics card that's going in there isn't really all that powerful anyhow. But yeah, this is it, kind of sort of bare. And like I said before, I put 4 sticks in here to make 8 gigs. And even though the BIOS can read 8 gigs, it actually tops out at 4. And instead of doing 4 individual 1 gig sticks, it's definitely better. I mean, most people probably know this by now, to have 2 sticks like this and run dual channel that way, as opposed to having to 4 1 gig sticks. It just looks kind of crappy with them open slots like that, but I might have a fix for that anyhow. I might get one of those fan coolers that snaps over the top and you won't even notice. I'm not sure. I'll figure it out. Anyways, that's where we're at with that. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I've got the computer wired up. This is the back panel here. And so what we've got down here at the bottom is a SATA drive, and a PATA drive. Because, like I said, I'm mixing old to new, so I felt like having an old PATA drive in there makes sense. Plus, we get to make use of the ASUS cable. And matter of fact, even the SATA cable going to the SSD up here is also an ASUS SATA cable, so that's kind of neat. So what do we got down here is a 450 watt Cooler Master power supply. And here I have a SATA to Molex adapter, which is connected here. And that Molex adapter is connected to a VGA cooler, a graphics card cooler, on the other side. Got these 3 fans, 1, 2, and 3 in the front here, connected to a 3-way splitter. Goes inside here. Alright, so that's a look at the back side and the cable management. The only thing I don't like about this case is you don't really have a whole lot of space. If you have a bigger power supply, you'll run out of space in here. And you have to put your hard drives in before you stick anything else in. So if anything was to ever go wrong with these hard drives, you'd have to just you'd have to pull this power supply out and most likely have to disconnect rather all of these, all of this wiring just to access a hard drive. Now, fortunately, I know that PATA drive in here works, so hopefully this combo mashup of old to new works out well with the older hard drive, and that there's no reason to have to access it anytime soon, because that would be terrible. So yeah, that's the back side of this. Can slide it around a bit here. Let's do the peel. A little bit of ASMR. Oh, that's a nice peel. Okay, so here's the front panel. The USB 3.0, and because it's an older motherboard, I actually had to use a USB 3.0 adapter for the front panel header. And you've got your regular USB 2s, audio mic, and headphones. Looks like a reset button here, power button. Yeah, that's a reset button. So over here on the side is something interesting. It looks like it's a port for what would have been USBs. Because like that little plastic thing I pushed in accidentally. And okay, so what it would have been is a switch. A fan speed switch. High and low. That for whatever reason was not installed on this, because right here we have a light, an LED switch. And on the opposite side of here, I did not see any line wiring for this. It was just these. So, yeah. Apparently there's another version of this case that has these filled in, or maybe that's an option that can be ordered or something. But I didn't bother to use them. The fans don't have a whole lot of breathing room here. I'm not exactly a fan of that, no pun intended. But I mean, even some of the little hole punch outs are actually filled in. Like, that's ridiculous. This should be, you know, maybe I may consider taking a drill and popping those out. I don't know. But I don't really like that. There's not a whole lot of fan space there. It almost makes me wish that I put the fans on the inside instead of leaving them stock. I mean, you might be able to get a look here. See? So, I mean, it looks like I could have moved them onto the inside of the case. It looks like there's enough room that I might have been able to do that. I almost kind of wish that I had. I may even consider doing that if I find that the thermals are just terrible. I don't know. It depends. So anyways, back to the front view here. Got the 3 fans. They're green. I can slide this again. Oh. Let's get to the other side of it. Okay, so here's the inside, and what I'm going to do is try and remove each corner. I'm doing this with one hand, so I'm most likely going to end up having to put the phone down to actually remove the glass. But what I'd like to see if I can do is at least access this peel here. So what we have is an old Asus motherboard with an Asus graphics card. It's a GTX 550 Ti, 1 gig. Down there is that graphics card cooler I was talking about. And see here. So I do not have the SATA cables connected right now because when I go to install the operating system onto that drive over there with the sticker on it, I have noticed that Windows can be weird about installing and having other drives on there. For example, one time I left a PATA drive connected doing another, it looks like this one's not going to peel up. Oh, there it is. So anyways, I had done another old build using Windows 10 and some older hardware intentionally. And I left the PATA drive connected to the system. And even though I chose the main drive to install the operating system, Windows automatically, without me having anything to do with it, had installed the boot partition onto the PATA drive. And I don't know why it did that, but that's just what happens. So I notice now that, you know, it's actually better to just remove all your drives that you're not going to use before installing your OS. Saves you headaches. So yeah, that's something I learned. And I mean, honestly, in that particular build, it didn't seem to matter so much because it kind of made use of the drive, the PATA drive, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. I was considering just maybe using it as a like a, you know, an extra storage drive or something. I hadn't completely figured it out. And what ended up happening, like I said, is the operating system decided to use it, at least a small portion of it, and I just left it like that. All right, so here we are. I've got the four corners peeled away from the. I know that was probably boring to watch. I apologize. But all right, let's peel off this now. See, I can't do this with one hand, hold the case at the same time holding the phone, so we have to do small pulls. And it's actually pulling the case with it. Oh, alright. Go from this corner. Alright, there it is. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is take the side panel off, get another look inside, and then we'll connect it to a monitor and turn it on. Okay. So I pulled the front glass panel off here, and so the story about that sticker back there, by the way, is I didn't like the sticker that came on the drive. It looked terrible, and I tried to pull it off really nice and easy, so you couldn't see any like the residue from the sticker on there, you know. And I got most of it off, but somehow it just wouldn't clean off real nice. No matter what, I used like rubbing alcohol and whatever, like trying to like clean up the drive, and it just didn't look as nice as I wanted it to. So I ended up slapping this point blank sticker on there. And they're a band that came and played in town a couple of years ago. I had the opportunity to do a show with them. I promoted the show. I'm not in a band, but anyways, that's the story behind that sticker, and it was better than having the front of the drive looking all crappy. And so there's the USB 3 header adapter I was talking about that was required, and it actually needs a Molex, so good thing I had Molex on this power supply. I mean, it is an older power supply, so no surprise, but sometimes they're coming you know, harder to find on power supplies, and you still need them. Fortunately, they do have SATA to Molex adapters like what's in the back I mentioned earlier. And there's the Antec cooler. Still have that Pentium D dual core in there. I would like to upgrade it to an E6700 or maybe like the Extreme Edition or whatever, just to like max out the CPU. And it has, now what I ended up doing was slapping in two 512s, so it has 5 gigs, even though the max RAM on this motherboard, from what the manual said, was it supported up to 4. However, the funny thing is, you know, when you go into the BIOS, it does show 5 gigs. When I had this populated to up to 8 gigs of RAM, it did show 8 gigs. But it looked as though it was only going to use 4 of the 8 gigs. And so I took out those sticks and just put in two 2s for 4, and ended up having 2 empty slots. So I had these two 512s sticking around, lying around, that were the same bus speed. So I slapped them in there just to kind of fill it out all out. So it's like wasting, I'm sort of like wasting a gig of RAM in a sense, because if the motherboard doesn't support more than 4 gigs, then it's not really going to use it. But again, it's 2 512 sticks. What else was I going to do with them? So now they're being used for show, essentially. I may get my hands on some old DDR gaming RAM sticks with heat spreaders on them, just for like to prettify it up a little bit. I mean, it's not really necessary. Underneath the PCB is the same for the most part. But I don't know. I might do that just to make it look a little nicer. So I'm using a flash on the camera. That's why it's so bright. Otherwise, I didn't think the light from the room itself would be bright enough to get a good look inside. And I will do a video with it all lit up. So here's a look on the inside. Completed as in, like, I still have to do the rest of the drives. Those are disconnected for this is all disconnected so that I can do the install up on here for Windows. Alright, I'll do a video, one final video of it all lit up and turned on soon.